Is it going live? Okay, and we are live tonight with Dr. Anastasia Zinchenko. First of all, thank you for your time and thank you for being with us here tonight. Yes, thank you so much. I'm so excited for this interview. For everyone who is just now joining in, just now tuning in, whether you're watching in the Women Who Lift Israel Facebook group, or you're watching on my personal page, or you're watching on YouTube Live, something new we started that I'm really excited about. Please, throughout any time during this interview, if you have any comments, questions for Dr. Anastasia, if you want to tell her how awesome and wonderful she is, anything at all, please feel free to comment and we will save questions for the end. So I want to really get started. Women Who Lift Israel is a women's only group focused on empowering women through strength training. And part of the reason that we started this live interview series is because we wanted to make sure to give all of our members as much motivation, inspiration, female role models throughout all of this difficult time. And Dr. Anastasia Zinchenko is for sure one of them. And I am so happy to have you with us here tonight. And I'd like to really jump right in, spend as much time as we have really getting to know you and your story and all the advice that you have to offer us. So if you could just go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us about you, why you're here with us, what you specialize in, and anything else you'd like us to know about you.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. So, okay, I don't even know where should I start. There's so much to tell. I grew up in 3 different countries, so Ukraine, Slovakia, and Germany. And when I studied in Germany, UK, Czech Republic, US, and then I came for my PhD to Cambridge, to the UK. And I was pretty active for my entire life, but it was mostly endurance sports. Like in Germany, the place where I grew up or like lived, there were like lots of mountains, lots of forests. So it was like amazing to be outdoors, like 10 minutes from any place in the city or like wherever you are, you will be in the forest. Okay, so I moved to Cambridge. And at that time, I was like swimming, mountain biking, and running. I moved to Cambridge. There are no mountains. It's like, okay, so everyone cycles. I'm cycling in the city, whatever. Okay, I can't go mountain biking. Second thing, I went swimming from time to time, but then I became allergic to something that was in water. And I was like, I felt like really sick the next day. I'm like, okay, that is off the table. I can't go swimming. The weather in England is amazing, as you can imagine. It's like in Tel Aviv in winter. It's like rainy, rainy, rainy. And I was in the lab, like doing my PhD at the University of Cambridge. It was like I worked on a very demanding project. So I was like in the lab all the time. And when I went out like at 10 p.m. in the evening, I didn't really want to go running in the rain. So I was like, okay, so I think somebody, I got one of the emails. It's like, oh, there's a new gym membership for students. You get discount. I'm like, okay, whatever. I was never like really a gym fan. I was like, okay, let's go there. I will just run on a treadmill or cycle or whatever. It's better than nothing. And over time, like over 1 year, it became like less and less cardio and more weights because I wasn't really into weight training. I was more like, oh, maybe I can get just toned arms. And then after 1 year, the gym manager comes to me and tells like, girl, what are you doing here? You're stronger than all of the guys here. We have a free weight room where real guys train. Go and train with them. I was like, okay, maybe I should check it out. So I go into this free weight room. That is like the most intimidating place in Cambridge, I think. No windows, just all this heavy iron and like only like huge steroid-loaded guys like.
Can I know where this is so I can go there one day?
It's 𝗀𝗀 carriage, sports center 𝗀𝗀 carriage in Cambridge. Yeah.
Noted for
One
later.
of my favorite gyms ever. So when I go back to Cambridge to visit, or like, still some work, do some research, I always go there, even like now after 5 or 6 years. And when I turn up there, like there's still some people the same, like the gym manager, he knows me, we chat. Or even like when I go in and there are some like really cool, like pumped elderly guys, and they see me, I know you, you've been here like 10 years ago. Like, yes. So basically I ended up there, and that was also the time when I realized, okay, there's such a sport like powerlifting, and these are like, squat, bench, and deadlift that are, the kind of exercises I like the most. And half a year later, I started competing in powerlifting, and I was very motivated to train, because my PhD went towards the end and I didn't know what to do, and I wanted to procrastinate writing up my thesis, because I think nobody likes writing up a PhD thesis. So I trained 2 times a day. So I trained a lot at that time, and then I ended up at the British Championships. So I think I was, 6th in the UK at that time. Then half a year later, British Bench Press Championships, and I placed 2nd, and also got a place on the British team. So the following year, I went with the British team to South Africa and could represent Great Britain at the World Championships. And at the same time, basically, I started, finished my PhD, and then I realized, okay, I'm more passionate about lifting weights and nutrition. Oh, also I became vegan at the same time when I started lifting weights. So it was an additional motivation, because there was not much about vegan nutrition out there, what vegan athletes, like especially strength athletes, should eat. So I've done my own research, looked up the papers, applied also numbers to the vegan diet, vegan food. So it was like an additional motivation for me. So after my PhD, I changed fields, and I started working in research when it comes to sports nutrition and also exercise science, focused on strength training. So I was freelancing for, at that time it was Bayesian Bodybuilding, now it's Menno Henselmann's institute, and they have also an amazing personal trainer course that is completely science-based. So I was also working on this personal trainer course, to compiling science-based material. Then Menno is like very interested in research and filling the gaps that are in current research. So we ran a few research studies, which is also amazing. And to cut a long story short, then I realized, okay, I'm in the UK here, but I'm not really, happy here anymore. And I don't know really where I belong, because I, lived in so many countries in my life. So I became digital nomad, started moving countries, like 1 country a month or something like that. I was like, okay, I don't know where I belong. I don't know where I'm home. So I can just move until I find a place where, I feel home. And this happened in Israel. So I stayed here and made Aliyah. And now, after lockdown, I hope to compete again and, I don't know, maybe represent Israel at the World Championships.
That would be incredible. And if you happen to be at a championship, you have to tell me, because I have to find a way to be there to cheer you on. That is incredible. And definitely, as someone meeting you for the very first time, I have to say, first of all, congratulations. I mean, the amount of accomplishments that you just like listed off as if they were like, is just incredible. And I want to really talk about your competitive career. I mean, you say you still compete and you hope to represent Israel one day, but let's talk about your accomplishments. You're the vice champion of the bench press, for Great Britain. You also represented Great Britain in the World Championships in South Africa. What was it like to compete on the world stage as a female powerlifter?
It was amazing, but actually that was also when I realized, before something like, I think, hard happens, or something where my body needs lots of effort, I think it's my natural protection mechanism just to gain energy and to sleep. So I think Other people are usually nervous before competing or can't sleep the night before. For me, it's usually like the best night. I'm like switched off. And before the World Championships, I think I slept through like for 3 days. I just woke up to eat and then I slept. But yeah, in general, like competitions are so super short. You just go out, even in training, if you have your clues, it's like clues and okay, I need to focus on this. I need to pay attention to this. I know I need to look straight ahead. I need to put my chest out. And when you are on the platform, it's just 1 second. You don't have even time to think about it. It has to run on autopilot. So all the competitions, they pass by incredibly, incredibly fast.
That's something I guess I never knew, because when I watch them, I guess it just seems like so much happens in such, I guess, a short amount of time that it feels like the competition is really, really long. So then, you've competed in several different, quite a lot of different competitions. What have you learned most about yourself if you look back on your competitive career as a powerlifter?
You're never satisfied. Every time when the competition is over, I'm like, oh, but I should have done this and this and this. And then I'm actually even more motivated to go back into the gym and to work on it. But also like to trying to improve yourself, not to compare yourself to others. Because, especially in powerlifting, there are like so many genetic freaks out there. And especially if you watch Instagram and you see, a girl who is, much lighter than me, and she's squatting over 200 kilograms, and I'm like, okay, she's a genetic freak. And it's like it can drive one crazy. But we see just some examples, maybe some outliers, or often genetic freaks, or like Jennifer Thompson, she benches 140 kilograms. And if you always watch her videos and it's like, I can't bench 140 kilograms, but just, enjoying, seeing strong women, but not letting yourself discouraging by it, but just, putting your work in, putting your reps in, and just trying to improve yourself, because you have your own genetics, you have your body, and that's what you have to work with and do the best out of it. You can't compare yourself to, other genetic freaks.
Absolutely. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about this group, is because part of the reason we want to empower women through strength training is to show you can simply compare yourself to yourself and always work towards becoming a better version of you. And that's the goal.
Yeah.
So then, to talk more about your competitive career, though, if you had to choose one, I know it's tough because you probably have a lot, but if you could choose one memory that really sticks out in your mind from these competitions that you've participated in, that you really feel like just taught you so much, what would that moment be?
Actually, it wasn't a moment from a competition. It was a moment from the gym, and I still remember it. It was like from this, dungeon in Cambridge. It was like also in preparation for a competition, and it was like late in the evening. I was alone in the gym, squat session. I was like literally alone in the gym, and I don't really know why, but I had to use a squat rack I usually didn't use, and I messed something up with the safety bars, so they were not at the right position. And I was squatting, and it was something like, 97 kilograms or 100 kilograms just for singles. And I squatted, and then I realized I can't get up. Like I went, out of the hall, and then I got stuck. It was literally like, what am I going to do? Am I going to die now? Am I going to drop the bar? But I can't really drop the bar because I'm a very low bar squatter. It's very difficult to drop the bar from this position. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then I got my shit together and just, slowly went up and managed to get this rep the bar. But then, this excitement, this adrenaline kick, it's like, you face the death. And in the eyes, and it was like, at the same time, I was so proud of myself. It's like, yeah, I managed to, I just managed to focus, get my shit together, and get through it. And it's also something that is in my memory, and you can apply, or I can apply to other areas of my life. Then it's like, okay, I know what I'm capable of if I really focus and do it. And I think it's like, and to be honest, I think I need this kind of occasional adrenaline kick in training, where I push myself to the limits, and then it's like, okay, you never thought you can do it. If you manage to do this, you can do so many more things in your life.
Yes, and I think that's a very important message. And also, I love the fact that your moment was not even from a competition. And it's especially important because I think that we can find these things in daily life that keep us going. We don't necessarily need to be, world championships are like incredible and mind-blowing, but you can find these moments simply in daily life, which is incredible.
It's like, training is something you have to get in, every day, almost every day. I don't know, depends on how many times a week you train. But, championships, you have a few times a year, but that is just, I don't know. Also, I think in competitions, I never could, or rarely, I could get the PRs I got in the gym. So I know actually in gym, I perform better. For many people, it's the other way around. They perform better in competitions because, I don't know, they have the pressure, the excitement, and so on. But I push myself so much in the gym. So actually, I, can push myself harder in the gym when I train by myself than in competition. Yeah.
So before we move on to our next question, which is more focused on your PhD in biochemistry, we had a question that was submitted in advance by Efrat Lev, who is a powerlifter that we've actually interviewed on our live interview series. And I think it's relevant to the topic we're currently on. She wanted to know, what are your favorite accessory exercises for bench presses?
Okay, that's an amazing question. And from my, I think in general, accessory exercises depend on your weakness. What is your weak point? And it's probably different for every person. Like, maybe not for every person, but for different people, or like different groups of people. For me personally, what helped my bench press the most were dips, especially heavy weighted dips. And I don't even know why, probably because I'm lazy. I don't have them all the time in training, or just because, it doesn't work out time-wise and so on. But 2 times when I got stuck with my bench press, I'm like, okay, why don't I actually do dips? It's like I do other resistance exercises, but I don't do dips. Okay, let's switch it and see what happens. Within a month, my bench press 1 RM increased by 5 kilograms, just because I introduced dips. And so for me, all the time when I see, okay, I get kind of stuck on bench press, it's like, do I do enough dips? Maybe I should, do lower rep dips, more weighted dips, and so on and so on. So this is one thing. And now what I discovered for me is also Leucine press. Basically, it's a bench press without legs. So you like really focus on your, upper body strength. And also I try to actually pause every rep, or like at least like a short pause. Of course, I also introduce pause, bench, and so on, but at least the first rep of each set is paused. It's something I learned from Boris Shaker. So for people who don't know who it is, Boris Shaker is one of the best powerlifting coaches in the world. He was the head coach of the Russian powerlifting team for 7 years. And in this time, the team was undefeated. And that was when I was in the UK. He gave seminars in the UK, and he looked for interpreters, somebody who speaks Russian and English, and is also knowledgeable in powerlifting and also like with science and all kind of stuff, because he's also a professor at university. So lots of he does research in this field. And then I was asked if I want to do it. I was like, yes, sure, of course. So I was, during his seminars, I was translating like simultaneously his seminars. I learned a lot from him. And also after UK, he gave seminars in Germany. So I was also his interpreter in Germany. And basically what he does with his athletes is no matter, what set it is, you always pause the first rep. It's because you have to pause in a competition. And as I mentioned, in competition, everything has to run on autopilot. You don't even have time to think. So then you train it when to pause your first rep automatically. So even if you're brain dead in a competition, you will just do it. So I adapted it. So I was pausing also all the time my first reps. And now, if possible, I try to do like a short pause for all of my reps, at least for my first sets. And I feel like it also helps me. It's kind of a bit assistance exercise, but still it helps me to like really to focus and develop strength of the chest and also working on the controlled movement.
That is incredible advice. And I loved how thorough you were. And that was just a perfect answer. So I hope Efrat, you are so welcome. I would love to move on to the topic of your biochemistry degree because I find it fascinating. I love the fact that you are not only a female athlete, but you are also a female scientist. And I think that is incredible. So in your degree as a PhD biochemist, you research sports nutrition and exercise science. In your research, what are some of the key highlights that you have observed in your research in this field?
This is an interesting question. I think I shouldn't speak about my biochemistry research because it's like so specific. No, but the title of my PhD thesis was the development of a user-friendly high-throughput screening method in microdroplets for the selection of efficient biocatalysts. If I start explaining what it is, I think I would just lose everyone. But I will speak about the research we have run on nutrition on athletes. And the thing is, we tested high-protein diets in energy deficit. If eating more protein makes you more satiated and satisfied when you're on a diet, or is more protein better? We tested 1.8 grams per kilogram versus 2.7. And the interesting thing we realized is that the people who were on this 2.7 calorie, like protein gram per kilogram diet, so an energy deficit, they were on average maybe a bit more satiated and satisfied than the other group. However, when we got them into the lab once a week and gave them like a high protein meal, just one, the group that was on the lower protein diet was much more satisfied with this one meal and less hungry. What does it mean? It means that actually you can, during a weight loss diet, you can use more, differences in protein intake as a tool to make you more happy. And this is also what I often apply with people I coach. I give often people protein refeeds. So when somebody feels like, oh my God, I'm so hungry, I could eat everything, on that day, or like for 1 or 2 meals, I just give like insanely high protein meals. And that's also my own experience I made during dieting. When I feel like I'm not focused, I could kill everyone. I'm just, then for me, it's like getting like a meal with, 80 grams protein or something. It kind of changes my mood and makes me feel much better. And that's also something that would confirm my research. But then you can't say, oh, okay, I had this huge, this day I had 200 grams protein. It worked amazingly. I will have it every day. No, because you get used to it. You have to apply it as a tool maybe once or twice a week, but you can't do it all the time because, we get used to everything.
Right. And I think that's something that people often don't realize is that the body has this incredible way of adapting. Our human body is incredibly adaptive to our surroundings and to our environment and to what we put our body through. And I think that's a very important message. That actually really segues nicely into our next topic, which is food. Food is, I find, a very, very sensitive topic, especially amongst women. There's just so many opinions out there, so many diets out there, macronutrients, protein, carbs, keto, all like a million different things. It's really tough to know where to start when you are overwhelmed with all these different, facts and opinions. In your perspective, what are the essential building blocks of a healthy diet?
Okay, first of all, vegetables, green vegetables, or vegetables in general. So that's the first building block. Second building block, protein. Like it's also important, especially to maintain muscle mass, to build muscle mass for all kind of important functions in the body. Then essential fatty acids, like people who are too low on fat. It's not good because fat is important for hormonal production, especially also for women. Often women who lose their period when they're dieting, it's often not so much even the result of the low calorie diet, to some degree. Depends on the woman, how long she's dieting, what is her body weight, and so on and so on and so on. But often it's actually because the fat is too low. So it's important, So for me, when I design diet for a client, then, okay, first of all, of course, I look, how many calories should this person consume? Let's say it's a weight loss diet. Then I feel protein. Then I feel the fat. And then what, the leftover calories I, use for carbs. Because carbs are actually, I know, this opinion, or like people don't like me saying this. It's like, because carbs are yummy, but carbs are the least important nutrient. And because we have essential amino acids in the body needs, we have to eat, our bodies can produce. We have essential fatty acids we need to get with food our bodies can produce, but we don't have essential carbs. Because even on a keto diet, the body can produce carbs via a process which is called glyconeogenesis. And even people who are on a keto diet and do sports and their glycogen stores get depleted, within 24 hours, their glycogen gets resynthesized, so their glycogen stores gets filled up again. So that's why if, I don't design a diet for a hardcore endurance athlete, because this person may really need carbs, but like for strength athletes or like, more or less normal people who maybe go occasionally for a jog or something, then, carbs is the least important nutrient.
Amen. And I think that that, first of all, totally makes sense. And I love the fact that you approached it from a very scientific standpoint. And that brings me to the question of protein then. Protein is something that comes up in our group. I don't know. I think I've lost count how many times it's come up now. The amount of questions, around protein are just endless. How much should we eat? What types of protein? What quality? All these different things. Before we really dive in, can you give us a quick protein 101? Because I think sometimes people hear like, oh, I should eat protein, but they don't really know what protein is. And then how do you determine how much protein you should eat?
Okay, first of all, it's like not one precise number. It's like a certain range. And I think people often get obsessed with like precise numbers, and they think if it's like not this precise number, where, then, everything is over, which is not the case. There are like certain ranges that make sense. And in terms of protein, also depends on if the person is a meat eater or vegetarian or vegan, because it's not actually the protein, we need, but the amino acids, the individual amino acids. It's like amino acids are like, building blocks for a house. If you want to build a house, you have bricks, you have doors, you have, windows or something like that. And, all in all, everything together builds a house is a protein. And some protein sources have more bricks than doors. Other protein sources have more doors than, I don't know, bricks. But if you want to build a house, in this case, your muscle, you need the right amount of everything. If you eat a protein source that has, I don't know, only doors and no bricks, then you, come on, it's like, okay, should I build a house out of doors or what? That's why it's important, not to eat just one protein source, but combine them, especially for vegans. And I've done lots and lots of calculations. I've written a science-based article about it, where I compare all different protein sources, animal-based, plant-based, with the composition of the human muscle, and explain based on the current research what is probably the most probable recommendation, which would help most of the people, and so on. If you want, I can give you a link afterwards, so maybe you can link it somewhere.
That would be great. I would love that.
So basically, for people who are vegans, because I work mostly, not only with vegans, but mostly with vegans or vegetarians or people who want to eat more plant-based. I usually recommend, getting, in ideal case, 50% of the protein from legumes, 25 from grain, and 25 from seed. Seed proteins is like a bit difficult to get, because you usually would get also lots of fat with it. If I will say, oh yeah, 1/4 of your protein intake should come from tahini, ha ha ha,
That's a lot of tahini.
It would be I would love it. I love tahini, but I think it doesn't fit to my body composition goal, So that's why it's kind of a bit difficult. So at the end of the day, I say, okay, whatever, let's go for half grains, half legumes, like protein, not food quantity or whatever, just, grams of protein from the sources. If some people, for example, I have clients who have celiac disease. So they can't, for example, eat wheat, gluten, and things like that. So it's difficult. Then I recommend supplementing with methionine. So that is the amino acid. This is the building block. That is the door that is missing if they don't eat cereals. Then others who eat mostly gluten, seitan, and so on, but don't eat, let's say somebody has soy allergy, whatever, or legume problems with digestion of legumes, then I would recommend supplementing with lysine. So then just, getting the missing amino acid. To cut a long story short, for people who eat also meat and dairy, 1.6 to 1.8 gram per kilogram is enough. And often, the research numbers are even based on lean body mass, or, let's say we try to base on lean body mass. In reality, it doesn't really work out, because even with the super precise methods we had in the lab, we got measurement errors. Where my colleagues and we were okay, we look at the person, we have, our own experience as researchers, as coaches, and it's okay, if I see this person, it's not the body fat percentage, even hydrostatic weighing gave me. That's why most of the time I just take body weight, except it's a person who is overweight or obese. Then I calculate lean body mass and take lean body mass, because then, the protein would just shoot up too much. And for vegans, I usually recommend 2.4 grams per kilogram body weight. If someone doesn't want to eat so much protein, or can't, or has difficulties to get so much protein, I drop it to 2.1 and let the person supplement with lysine. And if someone eats, let's say, a raw vegan diet, I'm not a fan of raw diets. I could talk about it forever, why people started cooking, why we shouldn't live like gorillas. It was actually, I got into a discussion at I think vegan festival or something, where a guy was like, oh, it's raw food is the best one, because have you ever seen a gorilla with a frying pan. And I'm like, do you want to live in the forest like a gorilla? Go ahead. I will cook my food. So, okay. So basically, the problem is if you eat lots of raw food or like even high fiber food, it can interfere with protein digestion and absorption. And then the protein requirements would even more increase. Then it's like 2.7 grams or even more.
That is a very, very specific answer. And we actually had another question also submitted by Efrat Lev because she really wanted to take advantage of the fact that you are with us. She wanted to know what the best sources of vegan protein for hypertrophy. That's my puppy. I'm so sorry.
Well, it's like there's not one, best source. And I'm also not a big fan of consuming in general just one source because of any food, because people can develop sensitivities, people can develop allergies or something, even if it's the healthiest food ever. Like when I lived in England, there's like usually there are amazing leafy greens already washed, packed, and so on in the supermarket. So I had like a huge salad for lunch usually with leafy greens and spinach. After I think 3 years or something, my face started turning red. After lunch, I started getting crushes and so on. I developed a sensitivity to spinach, or also like leafy greens. I got an allergic reaction, and I was like, okay, it's the healthiest food. Eat your greens. Yes, I ate too much of that. So that's why I'm really not a big fan of using just no matter what food it is, if just one, source, one food, I'm more a fan of, rotating it and so on. So best vegan protein source for hypertrophy, as I mentioned, I like as legumes. Okay, if we speak about protein powders, I would probably use pea protein because it's also good for cooking. I would get also legumes from soy, but more like probably like tofu or tempeh, because they're in general, like if you look at vegan products, high protein products, most of them are soy based. That's why I usually don't buy soy protein powder, because I know that most of the stuff I get is soy based anyway. So I don't want to get protein powders that is soy based just to get more variety. So I get pea protein. Then usually grains I get from gluten. It's like you can make seitan, you can use it for making protein bread, and so on. We have in our Tel Aviv Protein Bakery, we have amazing high protein pancakes as a powder we can ship in entire Israel. So it's also like for the products we have here, we pay attention to combine different protein sources. So it's a more balanced amino acid profile. So also protein bread, you can buy fresh, or also as a powder, you can bake at home. We combine grain and legume protein to have a more balanced amino acid profile. So actually gluten is my favorite source of grain protein, because there's rice protein powder, but it's not really edible, in my opinion. Yes, so that's it.
Amazing. And I have to say, I love especially the fact that you opened up Tel Aviv Protein Bakery, because I feel like, especially a lot of the types of protein stuff you get out there, like it doesn't taste bad, but it doesn't taste great. And so I feel like it's so important for us to finally be able to say, listen, we can have our protein and enjoy ourselves too. Why?
Exactly. Especially if it's like something like bread. Everyone loves bread, but then, bread is so high in carbs and I'm on a diet and actually I need protein, and what am I going to do? So it's like, yeah, there's a solution, just protein bread. Just use bread as your protein source, and you can top it with, I don't know, peanut butter or something delicious you like, and yeah, have bread as protein source. Because I always hated protein shakes. Not just they don't taste, they aren't satiating. It's like it just doesn't cut it.
I agree. And for me, it always feels kind of like a chore. It's like, I have to go make my protein shake. Oh my God, fine. I guess I'll just chug it down and get it over with type of situation.
Yeah, and it's like, it's not really a meal, it takes away your calories. from your calorie budget and you don't even enjoy it. Okay, you get your protein, but still, but it also passes faster through the digestive system. You are not full for a long time. And also the bread and the pancakes we have here, they keep you full for like a pretty long time, also based on the protein sources we choose, based on the ingredients we choose. It's like you eat something and then you're full. You don't think all the time. It's like, oh, when's my next meal? I'm hungry again.
Absolutely. So I want to also, only because we have 20 minutes left of me getting to talk to you, you are a very proud and outspoken vegan powerlifter. I don't think you see as many vegan powerlifters out there as you'd think. They're more and more starting to become more common, but still not that much. What are some common misconceptions that you feel a lot of people have about vegan athletes?
You can't build muscle on a vegan diet. Where do you get your protein from? No, but now it's getting better. It was worse before. Now I think it's getting better. And there are more and more vegan athletes. Also, Mayan Eliassi, my best friend, she and me were running the TLV Protein Bakery together. She's Miss Israel in bodybuilding. So she is like a 4-time Miss Israel, and she's vegan. And she progresses amazingly, builds muscle on a vegan diet. You can see it's there are vegan bodybuilders out there.
Absolutely. You just have to invite them to your live interview and get to talk to them. So here we are. We actually had a comment that is a question that's very relevant to this. It's kind of long, but she is asking, when did you first decide to become a vegan, and how do you make sure you get all the correct amounts of the amino acids that you need? And then do you have any supplements that you would recommend for a vegan CrossFitter?
Okay. My first advice is not to overthink. When I became vegan, I didn't use my FitnessPal to log my macros. I had my Excel sheet where I calculated the leucine threshold for each meal, for with grams of everything. By now I have simple guidelines. I know if you're vegan, you get about 30 grams protein per meal, then you're good to go. That's when you maximize your muscle protein synthesis. And this is actually, just by, chance. If you look at the menu of our TLV Protein Bakery, most of the products have about 30 grams protein per serving. So basically it's something we accounted for. So just by, getting one serving of, protein bread, a protein bun, a protein muffin, protein cake, whatever, you get actually the amount of protein you need to maximize muscle protein synthesis as a vegan. Or even if you aren't vegan, just, by eating this certain food. So I wouldn't overthink this. As I mentioned before, okay, just try to get half of your protein from grains and half of your protein from legumes. So even if it's soy-based breakfast, seitan-based lunch, and so on and so on. Then, what was the second part of the question with the supplements? Sorry, I forgot about.
The second part was if you have any recommendations for supplements, and I'm guessing she might have meant supplements for perhaps any amino acids, minerals, nutrients, or something that.
If you don't get 2.4 grams of protein per kilogram body weight, I would take lysine. If omega-3 is also important, DHA, EPA, I would take it as well. In general, for performance, probably creatine. There's like most pre-workouts, they don't really make sense. For CrossFit, it depends on the workouts. If it's like lots and lots of endurance stuff, high rep stuff, there are a few supplements that could potentially help to increase your performance by 1 rep, but it's the top of the iceberg. But yeah, in general, of course, B12 is super important for not just, vegan acids, for everyone. The vitamin D, we don't have so much problem here because we have sun, but in Europe, vitamin D is, supplementation is more important for vegans. Actually, for everyone, not just vegans, like everyone is vitamin D deficient. Then magnesium could make sense, zinc could make sense, depends on the diet, just because for your research studies have shown that vegans maybe, have lower levels. But then it's also important to know what forms to take, because if you take just normal multivitamin, they have usually cheap isoforms like oxide, and magnesium oxide is poorly bioavailable and it can irritate actually the digestive system. It's basically like eating a rock. That's why when we have new clients, because here at TLV Protein Bakery we do also meal plans and diet plans and training plans together with Mayan. So then I usually ask the clients to tell me what supplements they take. Just recently I took like lots of supplements from a plant from one of our clients, because I was like, okay, let's look at your multivitamin. Lots of stuff that is inside actually interferes with each other's absorption. It's not bioavailable because it's all oxide form. So I would rather, take the nutrients you need separately and get like magnesium citrate, oxide, not citrate, chloride or aspartate instead of oxide, and not just one multivitamin pill that actually, is of a low quality.
Yes, I agree. And I think that's also a realization that I once had when I first started studying this kind of thing, where for many, many years I took a multivitamin thinking I'm doing the right thing. Multivitamin, how could this go wrong? And I think it's very misleading. And so I think that was very, very vital information. So we want to also just generally bring awareness to having muscle, not just for anyone's body, but for a woman's body. Research has shown that if you maintain your muscle mass throughout your life, that can really increase your lifespan, and not just that, help you live a very higher quality of life, a better quality of living. So what is your perspective on strong women and women getting that muscle?
Well, I always say like my muscle is kind of my life insurance, because people with more muscle mass, they have a longer life expectancy. Also, if you look, at athletes or like powerlifters, bodybuilders, if they get into accidents, the chance to survive it is higher, just also because of the muscle mass. So yes, that's not just, oh, okay, I will just build this muscle to look good, to whatever, show my naked butt on Instagram. But like really, it's something that is important for to be healthy.
Absolutely. And I think that is a very well-rounded answer, because I think people often want what they want to hear, like you'll be okay and, just find a way back on track. But we have to also remember, there is a reason we all do this. Unfortunately, the reality is we all age. And why not try to keep up not only how you look, which is wonderful and feels great and all that, but it's literally the difference sometimes of being able to get up off of the couch when you're older. And I think that's a big awareness in what we're doing, that it's not just so you'll have like a really nice looking booty or really, really, jacked arms. It's also that you're doing it for your general long-term health. And I think that's a really, really important message. So we are coming to the very last bit of our interview. And I feel like we got here really, really quickly. This always happens where it's just like, where did the hour fly by? But I want to talk specifically about women who lift Israel for a second, because not only is our group almost at 1,000 people, but over half of the people, of the women in our group, identify themselves as being completely new to any form of strength training. These are women that might be curious, have just joined the group, don't know where to start, are trying to figure out what their goals are, that kind of stuff. What advice do you have for these women?
Don't be afraid, also like, don't be afraid to do something like, I don't know, don't be scared. I think when I started, I was like, oh my God, what if I do this wrong? How do I get this? How do I get this? Am I eating the right thing? First of all, the human body is designed to survive, If you don't get the right amount of protein in a day, your muscle won't fall off. Of course, you should try to, eat a healthy diet to hit your targets and so on. But, if it doesn't happen a few times, your muscle won't fall off. The same thing if you, don't train for a few days. That's the first thing. The second thing is there's, always a solution. Even if it's like, okay, what if I can't eat this? What if I can't? Yeah, there's always a solution. I had so many clients with all kind of different things they couldn't eat. If you have, knowledgeable support, ask someone who is knowledgeable. There is always a solution to anything. And I don't know. Often women say that they feel intimidated in the gym, like, or unsure because they're a man and so on. It's like often women came to me, it's like, yeah, but what is like, in the gym when they're a man and they, give you stupid looks and make stupid comments. To be honest, I had somehow never had this problem because usually the guys are usually intimidated by me, like in commercial gyms.
It's better that way.
In gyms, of course, that's like more like, okay, everyone respects each other. But even like in commercial gyms, often, also in my case, it was more like, the guys came to me and talked to me like with respect. It's like, oh, okay, I've seen you are pretty strong. I don't know, what do you think about this? Or I don't know, they ask me maybe something, like give them advice or something like that. So I didn't encounter something like this, that I felt intimidated in the gym. I think even at the beginning, because for me it was also like slow transition from cardio to bit arms to this and that, and I was in a very supporting environment. Also, like the trainers in the gym when I started, they often help me and things like that. But in general, just do your thing, enjoy it. And even at the beginning, when you were like feeling like really discouraged, that was something that happened to me when I just started. I was like, oh yeah, if I follow all these amazing athletes and I'm so weak and I don't know what to do, it was really like fake it until you make it. So I was like, okay, I go into the gym with confidence, I do my training, I don't think about it what I can't do, I just fake it. Okay, I can do it, I do whatever I have and I can do it. Yeah.
Amazing. And I think that was a perfect response. And first of all, I'm happy to hear that there's a gym out there where this kind of stuff didn't happen. So the more that I hear of stories like this, the prouder I am. And I just want to highlight that kind of stuff because I want more gyms to be like that. What a great example.
Maybe both in my case, selective ignorance, because when I'm at the gym, I'm like, focus on my
in the zone. And that's exactly how it should be. We have a couple of questions that we got in our comments. I'd like to take the last few minutes that we have to answer. Let's see. Most of them we have already answered. One person asked that she saw that you did some research on sucralose and how it might not create sugar spikes like sugar, as some research shows. Can you talk more about this?
Yeah. So I haven't done like research in terms of research studies on humans. I've done literature research. So I reviewed literature. So basically, yes, sucralose doesn't spike. Also, you use such a small amount of sucralose. It's like, actually here, I drink tea with sucralose. Such a small amount. Of course, when you eat something, or like you drink or eat something that is sweet, you might get like kind of, and not all people are even response from your brain, oh, something sweet is coming in. And this may cause like minimal spike, like literally minimal spike in insulin level, but also not for all the people, but it goes also down. But like insulin is released because our body, nutrients coming into our bodies, because sugar comes into the body. And actually, it's interesting saying essential amino acids spike insulin more than sugar or like carbs. So
really? I never knew that.
Yeah, so why it's like, and then it comes to all this like low carb diet. Oh, carbs are fattening, carbs are bad because they spike your insulin. Yeah, eat more protein. Hello, come on, protein spikes insulin even more. Where's the point? It's like a bit more logic. Yeah, so it's like sucralose gets, it just passes through the body. That's why it doesn't actually act in the same way as sugar.
Good to know. And I actually never knew that about protein. I always love doing these interviews. I learned so much. Someone asked, what about leucine amino acids for vegans?
Usually vegan protein sources have enough leucine. So again, that's what I calculate. Like you need, as a young person. Okay, young is everyone who is not elderly. Elderly is more than over 65. And then actually people over 65 need more protein per meal because they need more leucine to trigger muscle protein synthesis. But even then, research actually isn't sure if it's just about the age or inactivity. So maybe people who are at a high age but are active, they just need as much protein as young people. That's another thing.
Interesting. Very interesting.
So basically for young people, 1 gram leucine is enough, and it's in about even 16 gram of vegan protein. But if I account for, I don't know, maybe there's too much fiber, maybe there are problems with absorption and so on. So if you get your 30 grams protein per meal, you should be totally fine with leucine.
I'm really glad you mentioned that, because our very last question actually was posted while you were talking about getting 30 grams of protein per meal. So perfect timing. Last question. This woman said, even if you're not vegan, it's hard to get, I guess for her, it's hard to get 30 to 40 grams of protein per meal and still stay in a calorie deficit. I guess for anyone trying to lose weight, generally you have to be in a calorie deficit in order to accomplish that. She's asking, I guess, if it's easier to get that 30 to 40 grams of protein in 3 big meals or smaller meals.
Okay. So in general, it's better to get 3 to 5, bigger meals. Or usually I have most of the time I use 4 meals, bigger meals in a day, than 6 smaller. There have been also research studies that have shown that there's more muscle protein synthesis after, I don't know, whatever, 30 grams every few hours than feeding 10 grams every hour. That's why I am actually against the small meals and the smaller distribution. 30 grams protein per meal is actually not a problem at all, even as a vegan, For example, our protein pancakes, they have 30 grams protein per serving, 20 gram carbs, 1.4 grams fat. It's like 200 calories. It's like 200 to 205 gram calories, And here are your 30 grams protein. Seitan. You have also 30 gram protein and just, 150 calories. Add your veggies, huge bucket of vegetables, and you have your salad, Of course, for people who eat meat, there are animal protein sources like meat, fish, and so on. It's you have just to choose lean protein sources. So it's not a big problem. But in general, I would just say 30 gram protein, 4 meals a day, you're covered.
Very good to know. And I did not know that about small meals either. I guess I had heard so much good things about small meals, and this is the first time I've heard this information. So that's very, very key, very good to take out of this. And we have not only covered our questions from women who lift Israel, we've also covered many wonderful questions given from our community that's been watching us. We have come to the end of our interview. I'm a little bummed because this has been fun. Yes, first of all, thank you so much for your time with us tonight. We appreciate it. We appreciate your answers. You have been just super helpful and have given so much information. So thank you so much. And that is my puppy also thanking you. And why don't you go ahead and tell everyone where they can find you, where they can check you out, tell them where they can find Tel Aviv Protein Bakery so that they can reach out to you.
So for my content, also science-based articles and things like that, science strengths, like science and strength, sciencestrengths.com. You'll get to my homepage. Same science strength is YouTube channel, is Instagram. I'm active on Instagram. I didn't do so many posts lately, but usually I'm active on my stories. So every day I also try to sneak in a bit scientific content by asking questions, putting like every day a little bits and blobs, well digestible science-based bits and blobs there and here. Then TLV Protein Bakery Facebook. It's our main page, like Facebook. So if you would like to see our menu, order something, just Facebook, TLV Protein Bakery, same Instagram, TLV_protein_bakery. And also, if you want to see other strong women who are very inspirational, check out also Maayan's profile. It's like Maayan 𝗸𝗫𝗫𝗫𝗫𝗫, Facebook and Instagram, and her webpage is Vegan Babe. So you can also just Google Vegan Babe, Maayan 𝗸𝗫𝗫𝗫𝗫. So she's also very inspirational and strong woman. So yeah, then you're covered with everything you need.
Amazing. This has been just a very informative hour. I think I said thank you like 20 times, but thank you again. And to everyone who has tuned in with us, thank you for joining and have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Bye-bye.